Hello everyone. Let's start our video conference. Today's topic for this conference number 25. Exotericism with X. Pseudo Esotericism and Esotericism with S. Alright? Let's start the study of these three different terms, having clear since the very beginning of our conference that the goal of this conference is for us to learn to make the difference between a pseudo-esoteric school and an esoteric school, right? And based on that, to know in what part of the esoteric process each one of us is, alright? That's very important to understand. That's crucial to understand since the very beginning of our conference. So let's start the study, the analysis of the word exotericism with X. Well, exotericism is every single type of knowledge that we receive in this physical dimension, in the physical world, okay, externally, right? Every knowledge we receive in the external world, in the physical world. Alright? Every single one. Here we talk about high school, college, university, PhDs, and so on. Alright? Even these teachings we are receiving here through these video conferences virtually are part of the exotericism, right? Because we are receiving these teachings, this knowledge, this information in this physical world, right? Through this virtual tool, right? That's very important to understand as well, right? Here we talk about books, here we're also talking about courses, etc., etc. Every single type of knowledge we receive here in this physical dimension, in this physical world. Alright? As soon as we arrive to this knowledge that leads us to the self-realization, to the authentic freedom, there are two paths open immediately. Okay, the door of the follower. These are just intellectual persons that believe in what they have been taught, right? But never proved it. They never knew if the information was true or not. Believers, followers, etc., are part of this first door that is open as soon as they receive all this information. Alright? That's very important to understand as well. Alright? And the second door that is open as soon as a person arrives to the knowledge is the path of the practitioner. That person that doesn't believe but wants to experience it. And that's the clue. Because only practice makes perfect. Only practitioners will know if what we are teaching here is true, is correct, is objective, is a reality or not. Alright? Because followers only like to accumulate information in their minds, and it's necessary to learn to respect these decisions of people. But only practice makes perfect. Only practitioners will know certainly for sure if this information, these tools, these procedures, these techniques are a reality, are true, are correct or not. Alright? So that's the most important thing. Most of us, unfortunately, most of us, the majority of us, only follow this path. The path of believers, followers, and that's all. Unfortunately. The correct mindset is to don't believe in what we are receiving here, all this information, right? And any type of information in the world, alright, specifically talking about these spiritual matters, but proving them. Instead of believing, it's better to prove it. Alright? And that's only possible through practice. Alright? That's very important to understand and to know about exotericism. Alright? Yes, here we are talking about the spiritual knowledge. And in fact, this information that we are giving through this cycle of 50 video conferences. We give here the tips, the clues, for each one to have your own knowledge, your inner knowledge, your internal knowledge, which is the wisdom of your own inner being. And again and again and all over again, it's only possible for practitioners. Alright? Now let's analyze, let's study the meaning of the word, the term pseudo-esotericism. Well, let's analyze it by terms. The first particle of the term, of the word, pseudo means fake. Esotericism is a word that means inner knowledge. Right? Fake inner knowledge is also given in this physical world through different techniques, practices, or intellectual information related, for example, with tarot, crystals, pendulums, candles, astrology. Spiritism witchcraft, mediumship, concoctions, robes, and so on. Alright? All these learnings, all these teachings, all these informations are leaded, are guided, are controlled by mechanical laws. I don't deny that these are astrologies, something that really happened in people's lives, but this is something mechanical. It is not something associated with consciousness. Right? We are here to transcend mechanical laws. Astrology is something about mechanical laws, alright, and is necessary with urgency to change our destiny. Alright? Exactly the same, for example, with pendulums, crystals, tarot, etc., etc. This is not an information of our own inner being, because we are here on this earth planet to transcend all these mechanical laws, which in fact some of them are associated with the Black Lodge, right? With satanic groups. And it's the need to transform ourselves, right, consciously, respecting our free will through the elimination of the ego. And definitely that's possible with correct techniques, with correct tools, right? In fact, to apply, to get all the information, or many different type of informations through these techniques, for example, astrology, pendulums, etc., etc., mediumship, spiritism, concoctions, most of the times we must pay, right? So here is typical that in pseudo-esotericism, money is something related. This is related with money. That's why we may affirm that this is fake, because when we talk about inner knowledge, authentic spiritual things or matters, we cannot relate all this information, spiritual information, with money. Alright? Just to give one more reason or argument why pseudo-esotericism is something very extended all around the world currently, nowadays. Alright? Unfortunately, it passes, all this information pass as esotericism, as authentic spiritual information, but this is something mechanic. Alright? We are here to change our future, to change our destiny, to release the consciousness which is currently trapped inside of each one of our psychological effects. We have our own wisdom. We don't need external wisdoms that control our destiny, our lives, to believe on them. Because as it's been told, we should transcend our destiny. And these people may tell us what our destiny is. Right? So we insist on affirming this information because unfortunately it's like this. Now, typically, continuously, we may see that, for example, in pseudo-esotericism, they don't teach us to delete, to eliminate our psychological defects, right? Which is possible through the psychological death, self-observation and the inner petition to that superior female power inside of each one of us called our Divine Mother, our Devi Kundalini Shakti, who has the mission, the power to delete, to eliminate each one of our psychological defects from instant to instant, with previous detection of them, of each one of them. Alright? That's crucial. Also, they don't teach us that it's possible to pay our karma, to change our karma with correct procedures, making correct, decent, objective negotiations with the divine law, with Master Anubis and his 42 judges in our solar system. It's possible to transcend, to change, and to pay our own karma. Alright? Unfortunately, in these usual techniques all around the world, they don't teach us all these possibilities. Alright? And the other thing which is very important to understand and to know firstly is the thing about money. Authentic esotericism never asks you for money. Never ever. Without excuses, without reasons. Alright? Please. There is no argument to ask you for money when we talk about spiritual knowledge, the authentic one. That's why we insist always here in the need, in the urgency of analyzing, of reflecting on all these different informations we give in these conferences and other informations or teachings that all of us receive in the external world. Alright? To make the difference, to finally make correct and objective decisions for our own good and even for a common good. Alright? Unfortunately and usually in these pseudo-esoteric schools, they don't teach us the correct way, for example, the correct techniques to achieve chastity. To purify ourselves is necessary to learn chastity. And that's only possible through the elimination of our ego, of our lustful details, of all our inner fornicators that we do carry inside. Alright? They work with crystals, pendulums, tarots, etc., etc. And also they teach us to awake powers, inner powers. For sure, the best when we are trying to purify ourselves is to get by peace inside. And we should learn to put peace in others' hearts, instead of only searching or looking for awakening powers. Probably that's related with greed. It's better to find and to establish peace inside and in others' hearts. Alright? Analysis, reflection are urgent, are an urgency when we want to establish the main differences between one school or other school. Right? Also, they'll teach us to learn how to manipulate elementals. Right? That's possible through witchcraft also. Right? They teach, for example, black tantrism. When we talk about black tantrism, it's about the spilling of the sexual energy through that called ejaculation and orgasm. To achieve chastity, it's necessary to never again spill our sexual creative energy in the sexual intercourse. And better than that is to control ourselves and to transform the semen, our sexual creative energy, in energy, to put it all the way up on the dorsal spine, to create those inner bodies, to have real representation in the higher dimensions of the universe. the base here, the fundamental here to understand the pseudo-esotericism is that unfortunately here we don't receive the correct teachings, procedures, and objective techniques to delete our ego, our psychological defects, which are the main cause of our suffering and of worldwide suffering. Right? It's necessary to learn how to purify ourselves, to be free, to achieve the authentic freedom, to deserve a better and new destiny, a better and new life. Right? So what's the main difference between a black magician and a white magician? The quality of their knowledge. The quality of their knowledge is the main difference between a black magician and a white magician. Right? So also it's very important, before finishing this explanation, this analysis, this study about pseudo-esotericism, to know that if we mix different forces, different teachings, there will be confusion inside of each one of us. And it awaits a third force inside of each one of us, which is intimately associated with that Kundartiguador organ, that satanic tail that is connected actually in the fifth dimension of each one of us, in that coccyx bone internally. That satanic tail is awakened as soon as we start gradually mixing informations, knowledges in our lives. Right? So that original inner strength of sincerely transform ourselves gradually will be lost. Gradually, little by little, grain by grain. Alright? Now let's analyze, let's study the third term, esotericism, with S. Well, the meaning for this word is inner knowledge. Unfortunately, it's very common to find in different type of spiritual organizations or even religions some social groups where they believe that esotericism is associated immediately with witchcraft. Unfortunately, this is common. And this is due to the ignorance about what this word seriously means. Alright? Due to our subjective concepts, all those ideas that we do carry inside of each one of us about esotericism, those fears, different groups of people all around the world have created this subjective information, this fake information about the real and authentic esotericism. Esotericism simply means inner knowledge. Now, where do we have our own inner knowledge, our own wisdom, our own consciousness? Well, continuously we've been affirming during all this cycle of conferences that inside of our ego, which is built by each one of our own psychological defects, based on the 7 capital defects, is our own wisdom. So if we want to achieve, to deserve authentic wisdom, our own wisdom, which is trapped in our ego, is necessary to study ourselves, to self-observe ourselves, our own particular world, our psychological country, which is our own ego. It's possible through the self-observation. With self-observation, we know ourselves. We start that unique adventure called the knowledge of oneself. If we want to know literally and accurately the universe entirely, with all its galaxies, built each one of them by hundreds of solar systems, it's necessary to start to know ourselves. And it's possible if we develop gradually, with patience, infinite patience, daily, as much as we can, with our own self-observation, to know ourselves, our inner worlds, to detect from instant to instant all these subjective people that control our lives, our days, our months, our weeks, our years, our entire lives. Through self-observation, we detect our psychological defects. All those fears, concepts, doubts, prides, morbosities, perversities, worries, envies, etc., etc. And at the same time, inside of our ego, there is trapped the 97% of our own inner being, of our own consciousness, of our wisdom. Right? Where is the other 3% of consciousness? Inside of each one of us, without exception, for sure, there is something called the divine spark. That part of God inside of each one of us. That is the other 3% of consciousness. Only we awake consciously, with our own free will, our divine spark, if we self-observe ourselves. Beginning to observe ourselves, to develop this sixth sense of our current mankind, observing ourselves, immediately our divine spark is light. Immediately we awake our divine spark. Alright? And at the same time, we start detecting the different type of psychological effects that control our lives from instant to instant. Psychological defect detected is necessary with urgency to delete it. And that's possible if we make an inner petition to our Divine Mother, which is part of this divine spark, of this 3% of consciousness. Through that inner petition, asking for the elimination of that specific psychological effect that at any moment is controlling ourselves, our emotions, our minds, our, for example, sexual desires, and so on, immediately our Divine Mother will eliminate, will delete that psychological defect, and immediately the trapped essence will be released. In each one of our psychological defects is trapped a specific percentage of essence, of wisdom, of consciousness. I always insist on something here. Please do not believe me. Prove it. Experience this reality, please. Alright, this is the best, this is something magical. For example, if at any moment, this is something very typical in our society, we feel fear, that we are controlled by any type of fear, please observe the fear, detect it, and immediately mentally from the bottom of your heart to that female part of God inside of each one of us called the Divine Mother, which is part of this 3% of consciousness. My Divine Mother, please delete me this fear mentally, sincerely, seriously, honestly, and you feel immediately that the capacity of reaction of that specific fear will decrease immediately, and you are releasing the opposite virtue to this fear, which is braveness. Right? Exactly as any, for example, at any moment you're feeling pride due to anything. This is the father of every single psychological defect. This is a defect. We are proud of what? Of our financial position, of our intellectual knowledge. We are proud because of what? If we remember that we are nothing in this universe, that we are only a very tiny particle in this huge and incredible universe, we'll understand sooner than later that we are nothing in the universe. That the only important here is the level of the being. Alright? And every single authentic human being is humble. Right? It's necessary to release humbleness from inside of pride. If we are feeling superior in relation with anyone else in life, probably because that person has not the skills we have currently, or the money, the family, houses, cars, different abilities that probably we have currently in our present human existence, is the moment, is the opportunity to take advantage of it and to delete it. Alright? We can't be proud of anything in life. I don't know if you remember that conference number 24, Life and Level of Being, where we affirm that in this current society is the worst of this universe, is something never seen before. This unique degeneration in relation with corruption, wars, this pandemic, sexual degeneration, and so on, is something that probably is our own mirror in what we should see ourselves. So if we feel superior to anyone else, At any instant in our lives, remember that we are nothing. We are just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of particle in this universe. We can't feel pride of anything in life. Alright? It's better to be humble people. If at that very moment when you feel this psychological defect controlling your mind, your emotions, your everything or your anything inside of you, if you remember that superior power, your Divine Mother, ask her to please delete this psychological defect. And immediately you feel that the power of reaction, that capacity of reaction of this pride will decrease. And you'll feel how gradually you feel more humble, more brave. And it's exactly, for example, with envy. The opposite virtue, philanthropy, for example. Philanthropy. This is a virtue, this is a defect. This is the secret engine of everything in life. Philanthropy. Philanthropy. Okay? Instead of suffering for what others have, for what others have achieved in their lives, it's better to help them to achieve more from the bottom of our hearts, sincerely, with innocence, without second intentions, because it means love. It means love. It means love. Alright? So this is the process to start knowing ourselves, and this is called esotericism. Alright? If we start with this process daily, as much as we can daily, gradually, as it's been told, we can create all these internal bodies to know the higher dimensions of the universe, right? Third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, which is built by two different worlds, sixth dimension, and even the seventh dimension, and even more, alright? When we arrive to the end of this internal body number 5, it's necessary to make a decision to continue by the direct path or to continue by the... Alright? If we make the decision to continue by the direct path, will deserve our own self-realization. Unfortunately, many groups all around the world think that through this nirvana path, it's possible to achieve the self-realization of the inner being, and it is not true. It is not true. If we honestly want to achieve our own self-realization, it's necessary to choose the direct path. This is the one. This is the correct. This is the correct decision. Alright? We don't wish, even for our worst enemy, the nirvana path. Unfortunately, this is a wrong belief nowadays in all these type of esoteric schools, and for sure in pseudo-esoteric schools. Alright? If we continue, we choose the direct path, we have the right to continue with the process of Christification. In that called the second mountain of the Esotericism. This is called the first mountain of the Esotericism. The Genesis. Okay, which is to recover our sacred creative energies, to put them all the way up on our dorsal spine. Only for all those who made the decision for the direct path, which is the correct one, they have the right to continue with the process of the Christification, in that also called the second mountain of the Esotericism. When they continue in the second mountain of the Esotericism, in the path of the Christ, right, they are going to create 7 golden bodies, which will replace all these 5 first bodies, all these 5 solar bodies, right? Here they seek their soul, their human soul, right? And during the second mountain of the Esotericism, they'll get the spirit, which is something intimately associated with the Christ, right? At the very end of the second mountain of the Esotericism, this is only and specifically second mountain of the Esotericism. At the very end of this, they will pass for a process called the death and the resurrection of the Christ. When their Christ is resurrected, they start the third mountain of the Esotericism. Right? So, let me repeat something here. Only for those who chose the direct path, they have the right to start the process of the Christification, also called second mountain of the Esotericism. Right? In the second mountain of the Esotericism, they will create the 7 golden bodies, which are the bodies of the Christ. Not only Master Jesus is a Christ, Buddha, Krishna, Rabulu, Master Samael Aung Weor, and much more Christs are real Christs, right? Every single person that enters into this secret path, without a doubt, they will get their whole Christification. And that's the goal, to achieve the entire Christification, the whole Christification of our own inner being. And for that is necessary, it's mandatory to create the 7 golden bodies, alright, to finally pass for the process of death and resurrection of the Christ. Death and resurrection of the Christ. At the end of this second mountain of the Esotericism, all those initiates, all those authentic and real masters of the White Brotherhood, they pay something called karma duro, which are the crimes against the Holy Spirit, against sexuality. Karma duro. They pay the crimes against the Holy Spirit. Between 1 and 9 years of our physical time, they will suffer, and they in fact suffer different type of illnesses and incredible pains, physical pains, internal pains also. And this is a way to pay this karma duro, right? That's something mandatory for each one of them, for the entire process of Christification. When they finish the payment of the karma duro, alright, all those crimes against the Holy Spirit, for example, oral sex, anal sex, masturbation, having sexual intercourses twice a day, sex with animals, vasectomy, etc., etc. Right? All those crimes against Holy Spirit, they are free. They enter to the esoteric school depending on the ray from which they came from. Right? They enter to be active members of the esoteric school when they finish the second mountain of the esotericism. Alright? But do you remember the entire process that I've been explaining during this explanation, this analysis of the esotericism? Alright, so this is a long process. That's why we've been insisting always with something called infinite patience. Only achieving and having infinite patience, authentic practice, being very disciplined, authentic practitioners, gradually, little by little, will be guided for our own inner being, and will be guided for the divine hierarchies. Alright? Yes, depending on the ray from they came from. There are different rays, 7 rays of wisdom. Master Jesus has the entire wisdom of the 7 rays of the universe. Master Buddha also has the entire wisdom of the 7 rays of the universe. The ray of medicine, politics, strength, etc., etc. Art. There are different rays of wisdom in the universe. Some other masters have, for example, the wisdom of 3 rays, 5 rays of the universe. So the hierarchy is lower of, for example, the hierarchy of Master Jesus. The fact here is to understand the entire process gradually, little by little, to enter into the secret path, the path of the authentic esotericists. Alright? Authentic esotericists have lived the 3 mountains of the esotericism. Right? When they enter to be active members, authentic active members of the respective esoteric school, they start the 3rd mountain of the esotericism. They will fulfill specific processes, final processes, to achieve later the self-realization of their inner beings. Alright? First mountain takes probably 5, 10, 15, 20 years of our physical time, to be honest. Second mountain takes probably at least 20 years of our physical time. The time as we understand it. And third mountain is less than this time, but anyway, it's necessary to fulfill with all these processes to achieve the authentic final freedom, our own self-realization, the complete, the whole purification of our own inner being. And it's a matter of elimination of the ego. Right? So it's necessary this information to understand seriously, sincerely, in what part of the esoteric work we are right now. Anyway, this is a process of daily purification, gradually observing ourselves, detecting our psychological defects, and as much as we can daily, that inner petition to our Divine Mother to start the purification of ourselves, and gradually our internal experiences in the dreams, at night, when we are in that fifth dimension, will change, will be guided, will be led for our own inner being and by the divine hierarchies in this unique adventure called the knowledge of oneself. Alright? We should know ourselves to know the rest of the universe then. And that's possible through the practice of the three factors of the revolution of the consciousness. If we want to achieve, to deserve the authentic inner knowledge, to release our own wisdom, it's necessary to first delete the ego through psychological death. Because doing that will release our own consciousness, that essence, to put it through sexual alchemy, transmutation of sexual energies, on our dorsal spine all the way out, for the creation of each one of the inner bodies. Right? And then, if we want to continue with that inner strength to transform ourselves and to advance in the level of being, it's necessary to share this knowledge for free, without exception, to every single person in the world if possible, through that called sacrifice for mankind. Sacrifice for mankind. This is a sacred work for the mankind. We receive what we give. If we want to continue with the impulse, with the inner strength, it's necessary to gradually, little by little, obviously, to give, to share, to spread all this knowledge for free, without any interest, without exception, to every single person, if possible, all around the world. Working seriously, gradually, with these three factors of the revolution of the consciousness, will be authentic esotericists. And that's possible. Alright? Yes, Laurie, we receive what we give. If we give spiritually, we receive that inner strength, astral experiences. We receive that inner impulse to continue with our own inner work. And remember, I don't want to bother you with this, but do not believe me, but prove it. And you'll see and you'll know other realities inside of you and in the higher dimensions of the universe. It's necessary to find a couple of the opposite sex. Sexual alchemy, authentic white tantrism is only possible between a man and a woman. It is not possible being single, right? Suprasex is mandatory if honestly and seriously we want to know, we want to achieve our own self-realization, the authentic freedom. Without sex, it's not possible to release the entire consciousness which is currently trapped in our ego. Ego is the cause of all our sufferings, without justifications, without excuses, and with much analysis, with very much reflections, and taking the risk of knowing ourselves and making the inner petition to our Divine Mother. It's possible to know ourselves. It's possible to increase our own vibration, to feel the change inside, to change the way we feel, to change the way we think. If we don't change the way we feel and the way we think, we'll never be different people. Even if we read as many books about all these topics as we want, we'll never be authentically different. We'll continue from existence to existence in different types of human bodies, but we'll never know the reality. The great reality. We'll never enter again into the absolute. Alright? Well, if there is any question or any doubt about all this information, about these three different terms, please let me know your questions, your doubts, and shortly, as soon as I can, I will answer them. Alright? Thank you very much for attending this new conference, and see you, and hopefully see you, yes, next week, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.